Okay, we're going to start the series on codependency tonight, and I'll be giving a talk I love to give, the one on what is codependency, and how I'm going to do this. The first 5 sessions, the first 5 lectures will be explaining what codependency is in different areas, and then the last 3 sessions will be on the recovery process and how the recovery process works. Okay, I'm going to begin by doing a reading. And I picked a reading, the language of letting go. I picked a reading for April 27th. The reason why I did pick this reading is because the core root of codependency is fear and control. Constantly having to be in control and the sense of losing control, the fear. And this reading is about that. Letting go of our need to control and can set us and others free. It can set our higher power free to send the best to us. If we weren't trying to control someone or something, what would we be doing differently? What we do if we're not letting ourselves do now? Where will we go? What will we say? What decisions will we make? If we weren't trying to control whether a person liked us or his or her reaction to us, what were we doing differently? If we weren't trying to control the course of a relationship, what were we doing differently? If we weren't trying to control another person's behavior, how would we think, feel, speak, and behave differently than we do now? What haven't we been letting ourselves do while hoping the self-denial would influence a particular situation or person? Are there some things we've been doing that we stop? How will we treat ourselves differently? If we weren't trying to control, what would be so different? I think we need sometimes just to make a list, to take a look at. We let go of control. Really, where we go in our lives. Today, I will ask myself, what would I be doing differently if I wasn't trying to control? When I hear the answer, I will do it. God, help me let go of my need to control. Help me set myself free and others free. I wanted to read that because I want to talk tonight about the simple concept of what is codependency. The simple definition of codependency, I put it in very simple terms, is any person, place, or thing that I have built a dependency on. It means I cannot function without it. That makes my life unmanageable or makes my life crazy. That could be a substance, that could be a person, that could be a behavior, that could be a family, that could be a lot of different things. The key is dependency and control. One of the hardest things in the world to do is to learn how to let go of control, because many of us carry a lot of fear inside of ourselves. And so one of the things I emphasize when I talk about codependency is the core root and the foundation of all addiction. And the bottom line is, so many of us, you can put an addiction down or go to another addiction, but until you truly do go to the center and the core, everything still stays the same. And I mentioned this so many times when I did the series on the iceberg theory, that deep down inside, shame, self-hatred, guilt, all these things keep us from being our true self. And that's why we have to work on getting in touch with these roots and these foundations. And tonight, what I want to do is do an overview of how this process works and how its connection is to different forms of addiction. Whether you realize it or not, at your moment of birth, when you come into this world, I've learned this through many psychologists. The first 7 to 10 years of your life are referred to as your foundation years. They joke about this, but it's not really a joke. By the time you're 10 years old, all your traits, all your characteristics have been formed. Because at the moment of birth, when you come into the world, whether you realize it or not, You join 5 families, not just your family of origin. You join a blood family, yes. In some cases, you don't even get to do that. But you also join a neighborhood, a cultural, or an environment family. All these family systems have an effect on us and teach us patterns in our life. You join a religious family or a non-religious family. I'm sure when I was 1 month old, I didn't jump up and down in my crib and say, Mom, Dad, please baptize me Catholic. My parents took me, placed me into their belief system, which then became my normal until I was able to move in other directions. See, we don't realize how many normals we have developed. We also enter into a peer family. Kids are tough on kids. We all want to belong. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be part of belonging. And so many times in the course of life, we have a hard time because we get rejected, we go through changes, we get bullied. So we have that family we enter into also. But above all, we enter into a society family. Today, especially, we're bombarded by social media today. Just to give you an example, the first 10 years of my life were from 1940 to 1950. The first 10 years of my granddaughter's life were from 1998 to 2008. Do you think we got different messages? Of course, because basically she's more connected to different aspects of social media. And someone coming into the world now with things like AI and all these different types of things that are connected. It's like you get influenced in so many powerful ways, and it affects so much of our well-being, so much of our personhood, and even so much of our recovery. And so we see things in different directions. Normally, from our family systems, we are supposed to experience safety, a sense of spirit, an identity to who we are, a gentle sense of ourself. We're supposed to experience from our family systems places where I can begin to truly begin to understand and begin to understand my identity as a person. Now, it's supposed to happen that way, part of our spiritual growth, but it doesn't always happen that way. So I'm going to tell you a secret. Please don't tell anybody. Every family on the face of this earth is somewhat dysfunctional. Why? Because we're all human beings. And as a result, many of us growing up have experienced emptiness, loneliness, isolation. Many of us have gotten different types of messages. Growing up in my Italian family as a kid, there was one basic message. Little kids should be seen and not heard. So shortly, keep your mouth shut. Listen to the giants. Do what they tell you to do. And so literally, we picked up patterns, picked up traits, picked up different characteristics. What happens is we basically develop these codependency traits. I picked up my addictive personality from my mother, and my mother basically fell into her addiction. My mother worked for the Camel Soup Company, and she had a job that most of us would not do today, where she sat in the chair for 8 hours and watched cans go by. And she had to pick out the dented cans as they went by. So everybody on the can line popped no-dose pills, amphetamines, because they all would fall asleep at the job and they would lose their jobs. And so they got very much into amphetamine addictions. And again, later on, that became a normal for her. It affected her behavior. My father, on the other hand, was the ultimate codependent. who did everything for everybody, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Fantastic. The only problem, my father, he never did a thing for himself. He always did for everybody else. I picked up his pattern for sure, but it's just totally amazing how we learn. I'm always giving and not receiving. We have to learn different things in life. So as a result of forms of dysfunctionality, certain certain codependent behaviors develop. I'd like to explain these in a very simple way. I explained that many of us isolate or avoid or hide. Many of us go into a fantasy world or a make-believe world. And many of us get caught up in always trying to take care of somebody else, avoiding having to look at ourselves. Caretaking. Isolation. Isolators are normally kids that grew up in homes and atmospheres where they are what I call the children of fear. These are the kids that are empty, lonely, no intimacy, no closeness. We call them the lost children. They have no sense of who they are as an individual. And so as a result, they grow up empty and lonely. As adults, they migrate towards certain addictions, not to have to deal with the feelings inside. One is drugs and alcohol. These are referred to as the functional addicts. All their drinking, all their drugging takes place in secret, behind closed doors. They show up for work every day, but they use their drugs to basically function and survive. Because literally, deep down inside, so much is buried. They also, we isolators migrate towards relationship addictions. I'm empty, I'm lonely, I'm scared, I'm afraid. The first person that comes along that treats me nice, I'm going to take the sucker home. We call it hostage taking. There's a mantra. If you truly love someone, let them go. They're supposed to come back, they'll come back. Codependents don't believe that. See, codependents say, if you truly love someone, follow them and stalk them. They try to get away, kill them. A little bit of control there. The bottom line is there's this fear in isolators of rejection, this fear of abandonment, this fear I'm not going to be able to make it. So as a result, I need somebody. And it's almost like in some ways, I'm actually looking for and waiting for somebody to parent me. I never got the love, but now I go searching for it. We see it in areas of therapy also. Many of you, I know it's an old movie, but it was around for a long time, called What About Bob? Where the therapist took a week off. And of course, the client did not want that to happen. So he followed Bob to where he was on vacation because he got addicted to his therapist. You know, I see this so many times. I remember some lady coming up to me and she said, Vince, this stuff on codependency is really, really, really great. Where book, he said to me, what book should I buy so I can bring them to my therapist and teach my therapist about codependency so my therapist can then work with me? And I said to her, why don't you just find a therapist that works with codependency? Oh, I can't leave her. So you're going to train your own therapist? Does that sound like a codependent? Yeah, I'll teach her. Then she can help me. It's a concept. Again, control, fear of letting go, fear of change, fear of different things in life. The other addiction that comes under this isolation is the addiction of workaholism. And so the concept is, what do? I'm constantly using my job as my identity. Who are you? I identify myself by what I do, not by who I am. because I have no sense of who I really am. And so my job becomes my way of life. It becomes my portfolio. It becomes everything. We've seen a lot of people go through major depression when basically they're pushed into early retirement. And all of a sudden, their life changes. Where do I go every day? What do I do? It's scary. Because again, you got to remember, you're defined by your job, then you're in trouble. The other area that comes under this is the area of anorexia. Anorexics usually come from homes where they basically have experienced major issues with their fathers. 80% of all anorexics have a tendency to be female. And literally, that's almost like they basically have a negative image of self. So as a result, they have a tendency to literally, constantly worry about their body image, how they look on the outside. And what they do is they shut their body down till they get to a point where they become a child again. The bottom line is, I want somebody to take care of me. So what do? I literally shut myself down so I can have someone take care of me. I'm scared to grow up. I'm scared to move forward. It's a sad situation. I remember I did a funeral for a lady at age 52. And when she died, she was 54 pounds. It's sad to watch. It's a powerful disease, powerful disease. It takes time for it to really work on it. The second area is called fantasy. And fantasizers basically are children that come out of homes and environments where they have experienced things such as incest, sexual abuse, secrets. These are the kids that never want to take anybody home. They're embarrassed by their family. They're embarrassed by people around them. And so as a result, at a very early age, what do? They learn how to make up stories. They can create fantasy daddies, fantasy people. The scary thing about making up something like that? If you tell it often enough, you start believing it. You believe your own fantasy. And many times they migrate towards drugs and alcohol. These are the fantasy drug addicts and alcoholics, the unmanageable drug addicts and alcoholics. But if you confront them, they're going to turn it on you and blame you. See, it's never me, it's always you. It's that concept. And it's something I truly understand, and I share it with you. There's this thing called disassociation. I'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. When I was running the houses in Philly back at the beginning of Starting Point, I was walking down 23rd Street and I passed a bar. It was summertime, the bar door was open. I saw one of the guys from my house sitting at the bar. I didn't say a word to him. He saw me, I saw him, and I just kept walking. Next thing I know, he comes running out of the bar, screaming at me, "Father, I'm not drinking." And the poor guy carried the shot glass out with him and then stuck it in his pocket. Now, it's sad. Normal drinkers don't do that. But I understand. The minute he saw me, shame kicked in. The moment of shame, he literally had to come out and convince me that he wasn't doing what he was doing. And here's the scary part. When he was yelling at me, he truly believed he wasn't doing it. They call it disassociation. You literally are like in two worlds. Shame can do that for you so powerfully. It's unbelievable. The other addiction that comes under fantasy is relationship addictions. They're very scary. It's almost like, if I can't have you, then I want you. If you become available, get lost. I don't want to hear that stuff. I like the insanity, the craziness, the rush, the high, the stuff that goes along with it, the clandestine. That's why addictions so powerfully under fantasy are sexual addictions, narcissism, power addictions, compulsive shoplifting, all the things that give you that rush and that high to be able to get through things. And they're scary addictions because it's like you're living the lie. You're constantly living in two worlds. Gambling comes under that also. There's all the fantasy-based addictions. You confront a gambler and even say to a gambler, look what you're doing to your family. You're losing your home. Everything's falling apart. A gambler will look you right in the eye and say, not a problem. I'll go to the track tomorrow and get it all straightened out. Denial, hiding, running. Scary. The fantasy addictions are scary addictions. And usually they really don't get help until something drastic happens. You know, and the other piece that comes under fantasy a lot of times are the fantasy workaholics, working at jobs that are doomed to failure and thinking that somebody else is doing it to you. You know, I still never forget this. I had a lady come in to see me. She brought her books from home, her accounting books, and she dragged her husband in with her. Love it when they drag the husbands in. Anyway, he's sitting there and she's telling me, please explain something to this man. We have a trucking company. We have two beautiful trucks. He is the only employee. Why do we need two trucks? Then he starts screaming at her. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I work till 10 o'clock at night. I work like a dog. I bring in over $2,800 a week. She brought the books and she said, yes, but our expenses are $4,200 a week. We have a problem. He immediately stuck up, started screaming at her and said, I don't know what the bitch does with the money. See, again, her fault. I can't handle the fact because I want this beautiful company, the fanciness, all the stuff that goes along with it. And later on, it gets repossessed. I live in this fantasy world, this make-believe world. It's a rush, it's a high, it's a craziness that goes along with it. Also under this area too, we see things such as bulimia for eating disorders. Again, I may look like I'm all together when I'm not. And I use purging and stuff to that effect to literally try to keep my body the way I want it to be. And as a result, these behaviors then become normal to me. It all comes down to the fact that I've got a secret, and secrets will keep you sick. Secrets will bury you. I never truly understood this until I really read that thing of the iceberg theory. I went through my own craziness. I never realized for 44 years of my life, I had so much stuff hidden inside of me. And getting in touch with it was scary. Because again, the codependent, when they begin to get into recovery, it's almost like we feel like we're losing control. We feel like we have to always be in control. That's why we have a problem with failure. The last area, of course, is the caretaker. These are the goody two-shoes kids, the nice guys and gals. These are the kids that go from 3 to 43, the responsible children. These are kids that have to grow up too fast. These are kids that many times are told, you're the backbone of the family. These are kids that experience things way before they're supposed to. They don't realize it, but deep down inside, they're very angry. They're very angry. Their childhood has been taken away from them. they've lost their childhood. I told you this story before, but I had a grandmother come in with her 4.5-year-old granddaughter. I was doing the intake, and the grandmother was going on and on and on about how the girl's mother is a drug addict and what she does and stuff to this effect, and the kid. And I just, my eyes went to the child. The child was sitting there in the chair with her fingers tapping, 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 like she was very impatient. And then finally, and this is a 4.5-year-old, she said to me, "Mister, let me tell you about my mother. Grandmom doesn't live with her, I do." I thought I was talking to a 32-year-old or something. She scared the hell out of me. She said, "Mom, I take care of my mom. I take care of my mommy. I put cold compresses on her. I clean up her messes." I mean, this kid is an adult already. Now we put the kid into therapy and try to get her back to become a kid again. She got so much responsibility, it's unbelievable. And it's scary. Because we have that much responsibility at that early age, and you take it into, which we don't realize that we're angry. A lot of times you'll ask a caretaking codependent, "Hi, how are you?" "I'm fine. Everything's wonderful. Everything's great. I don't have any problems. Get out of my face." A little bit of anger comes out there. Remember the word fine. Careful when you use it. It means I am a frustrated, insecure, neurotic, emotional person. Congratulations. Fine. But the bottom line is, I'm not really fine. I got so much stuff inside of me, and I got to be able to get it out. So very many times, caretakers, because they're very responsible, when it comes to drugs and alcohol, they only go to the legal pushers. They're called doctors. They're called over the counter. And basically what I do is I can medicate myself and keep myself on an even keel because I use it as a control issue. Just to keep myself being able to function, to stay in that direction. But I would never do anything illegally. God forbid. Because I've got my act all together, even though I don't. When it comes to relationships, caretakers love, love, love to be involved in relationships with sickies. Bring me your sick and you're deprived, and I will take care of them. We call it the parent-child relationship. But there's rules. See, caretakers are angry, so they got rules. The rules are, don't you dare get better. Because I'm going to bitch about you, gripe about you, complain about you all day long. But don't you dare get better. I always love telling the Italian story. My aunt used to live in Pennsauken before she died. She was in a wheelchair. I would go visit her. And every time I got to visit her, the lady next door, this Italian lady, would see me coming and come over. And we sit and have tea. And all she would talk about is she would bitch and gripe about her husband, the bum. We've been married for 40 some years. The man does nothing. I cook, I clean, I do this, I do that. He doesn't do a thing. Then one day, I don't know why, I must be a little stunad. I said to her, "Why do you stay with him?" She almost took my head off. "Because I love him. We have a good marriage." And she went on and on and on. Whoa, calm down. Take it easy. I'm going to tell you a secret. If that man ever tried to do anything, she'd kill him. You see, I can bitch, I can gripe, I can complain, and then call it love. It's manipulation and control. Here's that control and fear again. When it comes to a job, I always tell the story, and I love telling it. When it comes to work, if you want to make a lot of money, now, Pat, you really have to get this one. If you want to make a lot of money, start your own business. If you need 15 workers, hire 3 caretakers. Because a good caretaker does the work of 5 people. But remember something, don't you bother even showing up for the job, because they will work their tail off. There's some rules, though. There's always rules. They're going to bitch about you and gripe about you and complain about you, but they will be there. Even if you have a snowstorm, they'll dig their way there. Don't worry. They're very responsible, but they have all these rules and regulations. Just stop in on Friday, pick up the money, and whatever you do, don't pay them too much. Please, they get upset over that stuff. You see, it's amazing sometimes how this works. That literally, we don't know how to ask for our worth. We're angry, and so we literally have to be angry at everybody and angry at everything. And yet we don't see it as anger. We see it as caring. It's amazing. You look at it. One of the classic things, I always love sharing this. Remember, if you're a caretaker and you're going to call out work, sick from work, when you're not sick. Now, if you happen to live with somebody who's going to do that, get a motel room, because they're going to stay up all night and prepare their story for the next day. Now they're ready. They got the story. They're all set to go. It's 7:00. They pick that phone up and they're going to call the change of shift and say, I won't be coming in today. Person on the other end says, okay. I didn't get a chance to tell my story. Now what are they doing? The whole company's wondering why I'm not there. Maybe I better stay inside all day because somebody might see me on the outside if I go out and do something. And so I live in anxiety all day long. You should have went to work in anxiety all day long, And then I now have a whole entire day, another whole evening to work on my story. Then I show up for work the next day. I got my story ready. And most people don't even know I was missing. You know what that does to a caretaker? Takes the air right out of the balloon. You mean you didn't miss me? But now I got to go around all day and make sure everybody hears my story because I've planned it for the whole entire day. It'll make you crazy, I'm telling you. But the bottom line is I have this drive inside of me where I've got to be able to be responsible. I got to get it done. We see this in teachers, nurses, housewives, people that take care of children, therapists, counselors. We give, and give. We don't know how to receive. And as a result, very many times we have a tendency to burn ourselves out. That is the scary part of the whole thing. And burnout is very common amongst caretakers. And that's why it's an important thing to realize that caretaking modality is not healthy. Now, the other area under caretaking is the compulsive overeater. Compulsive overeaters, whether you realize it or not, and this is an issue I had to work on in my own life. They are very, 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 very angry people. But we mask our anger with a smile. We're angry. I never truly understood any of this until I got into my eating disorder recovery and until I finally began to get in touch with feelings and I began to lose weight and I began to get in touch with all kinds of stuff and it scared the living crap out of me. I didn't realize how much I was controlling everything, controlling the world around me. And once you let that cover come off, it's scary what you find on the inside. I didn't realize the anger I had towards my family, towards the church, towards all kinds of places. My God, this stuff all came flying out of me. And I never realized it was so deep inside. It's amazing sometimes what we do to ourselves. And codependency is that root, it's that foundation of many addictions. And I tell people in recovery, putting the addiction down, believe it or not, is the easiest part, even though it's the painful part. It's going to the inside, to the root, to the foundation, to work on the concept of where it comes from. And I share that because there's a big difference between what we call codependency and interdependency. Interdependency is something healthy. For example, we're on Zoom tonight. We're interdependent on Wi-Fi, on the website, interdependent on things that help us to do things in a positive way. And so the bottom line is we have to learn the difference between the two. Codependency is more destructive. Interdependency is more healing. So what I want to do over the next 4 weeks is go deeper and deeper into this aspect of codependency. And we'll do family systems next week. And I always use kind of joke and say, we'll talk about, yes, Virginia, there is a normal. To be able to understand what those normals are and what to be able to do with them. And then we'll talk about one of my favorite talks, how to play and how to have fun. We'll talk about the concept of why codependents take life very, very, very seriously. We analyze ourselves to death. And then we'll talk about codependency and relationships, and then about the roles of codependency and how we play them. We'll go through this whole concept with it. Helps you understand an overview of codependency. As I said, we'll get into it in more detail, and then we'll also get into the recovery process too as we go through this series. I'm hoping that codependency, and I've learned this finally, and people always ask me, where'd you get all this stuff, Vince? Back in 1979 and 1980, I was given a powerful gift. The gift was a book. The book was called Adult Children of Alcoholics by Janet Wowitz. Then I went to a workshop that she did. I could not believe when I read that book. I could swear that lady lived in my house. I could swear she was the sister I never had. How did she know all that stuff about me? She didn't even know who I was, and yet she knew all that stuff about me. It's amazing, isn't it? Doors open up, things begin to happen as a result of that. So I hope this helps you to see the overview, and we'll continue it as we go through the series. So tonight I want to pray and ask God to help us and guide us as we go on this journey to begin to look within ourselves and go through the healing process. So let us pray. God, we come before you in prayer. We ask the God of our understanding, our divine presence, to be our guide, to be our strength. Help us to look within. Help us to understand our feelings. Help us to realize the beautiful, beautiful gifts that we have in the process of healing. Help us to be able to look at things in life, to learn from them and grow from them. Dear God, please send teachers into our life, messengers, to help us to understand better. Help us to live better. Help us to look at ourselves and grow. We know if we ask for your help and your guidance and your direction, you will send those messengers. And so I ask the God of my understanding tonight, please Be my guide, be my strength, be my helper as I walk the journey of this earth. And I pray for guidance and direction in everything I do. And I pray and ask for this. And I pray for it in your name. Amen.